And I'm wondering if you use global economics as a tool to understand the undercurrent of what's happening in the present, as well as history.
That's exactly what I do. It's very timely, because the last article I published, it only got released, I think, last week. I didn't send it to you, but if you want, I will send it to you. It's being published all over the place now, because I work through something called the Independent Media Institute. I don't know if you know them. But basically what they do is I write articles. They have a whole stable of writers. But I write articles, and then they place them all over the place. It gets me much more exposure than I can do myself. Anyway, that latest article is literally what you're asking me about. So let me state it in the simplest way I can. My life, literally, my conception by my parents, my upbringing, was overwhelmingly shaped by what you might call world events. I mean, that is true of every immigrant's family. Think about it. I'm the child. I was born in Ohio. I'm an American citizen by birth in the middle of the country. But I'm born to two refugees, a French and a German, a French man and a German woman. And what does that mean? They are unwillingly forced out of their country of origin. They are therefore disconnected, and I mean wrenched, radically yanked out of their language, their culture, their family, their community, you name it. I'll give you an example. My father went to law school, became a lawyer and a judge in Germany before he had to run. Okay, when I was born, he was pushing a wheelbarrow in something called the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company, a steelmaker. Okay, that's a fairly sudden change of venue, change of tradition, change of its skill, change of culture, change of everything. My mother was a good student, graduated from what in Germany is called gymnasium. You know, okay, so it's above high school, not quite college, but in many ways ahead of what we do in college here. About to go to university, yanked out of all of that, and then my mother went into a concentration camp of the French. She ran away from Germany, luckily, but the French had no papers, so the French stuck her in what they called personnage sans papier in French.
People without paper?
Okay, good.
Documents?
Yeah, no, that's good. Has another displaced person in English. Anyway, stuck in a camp like that for a while. She's a 22-year-old girl, young woman. So my parents are traumatized on almost every dimension of life. Their parents killed. My father never saw his parents again. He hid them before he left in France. He hid his own mother and father with a farmer in, if you know France a little bit, Normandy, heading towards the ocean, the rural area, basically. Dairy is, to this day, is what's famous for. And he paid a farmer to put his mother and father, my grandparents, in a barn, a little apartment that had been built at the top of a barn. So below was hay and animals, and above was a little apartment with a toilet and all that. And they spent the war there, my grandparents, hidden, because it was German occupied. And I'm just guessing at how it affected them because they couldn't speak about it. You see where the psychology comes. Why would I be interested in psychology? Well, I'd like to know what the hell who am I? So they come here, and what are they? They are a walking exemplar of how world affairs come and bite you right in the ass. I mean, you think you're going to escape from these abstract Hitlerism, Nazi, these could be, and they are for most Americans, vague abstractions. They may remember the definition, maybe if they read a book, a little bit realer, but it's distant. It's not for me. That's not distant. That's right in there, in the guts of all the most immediate relationships and feelings that I have. So I think that's been with me all along. I think it had a lot to do. I mean, here's the joke. I got married when I was 23 to the woman I'm married to still.
Impressive.
Yes. Real weird. Impressive. I almost married another young woman. And here's the thing. That other young woman is now a psychiatrist. Did go to medical school, became a psychiatrist. So I'm married to a psychotherapist. I almost married. And they didn't know each other. Those are separate parts of my life. Her father, the one I almost married, was a pediatrician. My wife's father was a pediatrician. Her wife's pediatric father was the head of pediatrics at something known as Philadelphia Children's Hospital. It's a major hospital in Philadelphia. My father-in-law was the head of the pediatrics department at the Albert Einstein Medical School here in New York. And they didn't know each other. The fathers didn't, the children didn't. So something in me went towards young women who had that in their head, all of that. And my wife has been my tutor in psychology ever since. My father read Freud. My father was a serious intellectual. I mean, he read and he thought. He read Freud, and he found it wonderful and fascinating. But the idea of applying it to his own family, I don't think ever occurred to him. When psychological issues came up about people we knew, it was handled with dismissive humor. Ha 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 ha, a shrink. Not. Whereas when he would talk about Freud, it was always serious. And the first time I picked up, and this was in graduate school, I picked up Freud's The Analysis of Dreams, the first major book he wrote. And I realized why this was so important to my father, and then to me as well. I called him and I talked to him, and we had understood why this was important. But for me, it had to be applied to me. For my father, it didn't occur to him strength.